Hey, what is up everybody, Blaze for here, and today for you guys another video, Persona 5X. Inside today's video guys, we're going to be going ahead and going over a complete gear guide when it does come down to at least P5X itself here, in which are going to pertain to Arcana cards themselves. Now these Arcana cards are going to be separated at least into Revelation cards as well as Universal cards here, so you might want to pay attention very closely here because it can very well get a little bit confusing. But without further ado here, if you do enjoy the video, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, really does help me out a lot. And let's get straight into it. Now Arcana cards are the main deal when it does come down to gear. The best way just to call them is just gear sets, to be honest, in which every character is going to need one of these at some point. It's mainly just the only equipment in the game here, besides at least maybe the weaponry that we just get for pulling, in which I don't really at least dedicate those as really gear. This is the only thing that's the actual gear here, and you can treat it like it's armor of some sort that gives you kind of set effects. But of course, you're going to need these Arcana cards, in which are going to be separated in multitudes of different types here. One of them being, of course, Sun, as you can see at the very first one, Moon, Star, and Planet. Now, these are all going to comprise, of course, as the 4 set, and then eventually you will have a big card up here, which is the Universal card. And that one doesn't really change or have really any significant name other than just Universal card. So at the end of the day, you got your 4 set and then you have your Universe card. All these things are going to unlock for yourself at least at level 35, so it's pretty obvious to at least get to that point to actually get these sets advised. Now when it does come down to at least actually farming these guys, you very well could farm them kind of early, which some of you guys might end up farming them around 50. So I recommend you guys to try start farming them around 60 or 70. I myself usually like to farm them around 70. I don't really like to farm around 60. It feels like the drop rates are really too low, at least for gold ones. And 70 is more like that happy medium for me at least. But all in all, you're going to get these from different dungeons here, in which you need to complete these said dungeons, and they will give you in any type of at least random card. Usually each random dungeon here will give you 2 different types of these random cards here, so you really do want to pay attention to them. Now on global side of things, you will not have all of these different card sets on day 1. You'll have some of the base ones here, but one dungeon is going to hold 2 of these said card sets. As you can see right here, for being level 80, I'm able to at least get 2 to 3 of the Truth set and then 2 to 3 of the Prosperity set. All in all, it is of course a drop rated thing here, so the lower level you are, the less likely you are to get certain rarities of these card sets, and the more likely it's going to be harder to get. Now you can obtain them from other places besides just farming. It could be like event shops. I think sometimes SOS / I think like battle raids or different guild raids, that's what it was. Guild raids should end up giving them out, or guild bosses, and then every now and again you might get them inside of battle passes. You don't get all too many here, but you are able to at least stack up on these guys, such as even the Universal cards being the Universe Echo. They're going to be very, very helpful, so surely do keep that in mind. Now, if we're going to go ahead and talk about some things that are going to be very, very important about them, is these guys, as I did say, there's going to be rarities to them at the end of the day. The higher level you are, the better rarity they're going to be. And as I did say, I feel like the level cap is going to be 70 for a lot of you guys to go ahead and start farming these guys. Now, if you wanted to farm them earlier, they go in this type of order. Whether the lowest is all the way up to 2-star or all the way down to 2-star, to the highest being all the way to 5-star. They do have a certain maximum, at least amount for substats, as well as base substat slots, and then they have a maximum level. The highest being the gold card here is going to be at a maximum of 25, while the lowest, if we go ahead and look on the screen, if we go ahead and add some purples or at least some gray ones here, the gray ones, which are the 2 stars, would actually be level 10. Now it's pretty obvious to see how this is gonna go. As I did say, you're probably gonna want to wait on it, and the more you end up waiting, the better cards you're gonna end up getting, especially with the stamina bottles that you're gonna use for that time. Now there are set effects to these cards, and every card will have a 2-piece to 4-piece set effect here, in which these different set effects will give you different bonuses. Now they're only going to be at least appearing mainly on these 4 cards down here, so you do want to make sure that you're getting those 4 cards in order to get the 2-piece and the 4-piece set effect. I know some of you guys what you're thinking, and maybe I can go ahead and do a 2-2 set, or maybe like a 1-3 set, which really doesn't do anything, but hey, you know what I'm talking about with this. don't want to do that. You really do want to rare a whole set, seeing that you're going to need that whole set in order to trigger the set effect that the universal card will do. So as you can see, the top one here being Prosperity is the whole 4 set of this card. Well, the universal card, whenever it's paired with a 4 set that it's designated for, it will also give its own status effect, being the Trust status effect. When you have this card equipped with Prosperity, essentially we're getting another buff here, or another set effect here, being Trust and Prosperity together, in which increases all allies damage dealt by 8%. All these actual set effects do depend on at least the corresponding Revelation card sets that you have on, so you will need to at least know a couple of these sets off bat, which don't worry, if you want to know that, you could very well check Pridewind's website, which I'll have the link down below so you guys can know exactly what each set does do. But for the most part, this is one of the set effects that you want to go ahead and have. Depending on this, what happens here, if you click the card, you will actually be able to tell, or at least you click the universal card, for example, there will be 3 different sets here. As you can see, the Trust card, which is the most important card out of the entire set effect, is going to have 3 different effects. So if I happen to have Trust and then the 4th set of Strength, it will give me a corresponding effect. If I had the same with Trust and the set effect of Renewal, the same corresponding 4 cards, it will give me this set effect, and so on and so forth. Now, every card will have at least 3 different set effects that it can actually bring, or every universe card, aka the big card is what we're going to call it for the rest of the video. The big card can have 3 different set effects, but it is going to be designated on the 4 set that you do have. If you don't have the correct 4 set on, it will not activate this universal card's actual set effect, so you do have to know exactly which ones are for which character. Just really do keep that in mind. Now, when it does come down to at least the stat side of things here, every card will have a certain amount of at least things that you can have. Whether it's going to be at least substats or main stats, you will need to know this. So for the main stats themselves, these cards can have certain things as well. Sun is always going to be a flat HP amount, so you do want to keep that in, or at least in mind, while Moon, as well as the rest of these, will have different little set effects that you can get. Moon itself can actually give you a couple different ones, being attack percentage, defense percentage, HP percentage, healing effectiveness, and damage bonus. If you wanted to actually find out what the cards themselves could do, you very well could actually look at this too as well and try to filter them out. Though the best way to do this as well, if you don't exactly do know on the release date, you could very well check out Pridewind, which gives a lot of information on this as well, to at least my knowledge. As for at least the star one, you can get, of course, attack percentage, defense percentage, HP percentage, crit rate, crit damage, and effect hit rate. Each one of these things are going to be fairly important, and I'll explain at least what they do later on in the video. And then lastly, we have the last set being, of course, the Planet. The Planet card itself can give you the main stats of attack percentage, defense percentage, HP percentage, speed, and SP regen. All this is going to be fairly important, so surely do keep in mind of this. And even if you did think this was all that was going to be happening, the universe card actually does have a main stat as well. Though these main stats are always set aside, doesn't matter exactly what you choose, it will always be attack and defense, so don't worry, it's nothing complex. Now, as for at least the main stats and their scaling, as well as just main stats in general, they all will have their own scalings here, in which depending on the main stat, it does differ. But let's just say the higher the rarity of the card, the higher the main stat is going to end up getting. This is a finite type thing here, so as you're actually leveling up your cards, you will surely know the difference between at least the main stat scaling. The hard part is mainly the substats, which we'll go over as well right now. Now, for substats themselves, you can get all of these substats in general here, which we're able to actually show on the screen. Substats can be HP, attack, defense, crit rate, crit damage, EHR, which is effect hit rate, speed, SP recovery, pin, and damage bonus. Now, as for at least some of these guys, you very well can have also HP percentage, attack percentage, and defense percentage, so you surely do want to keep that in mind. All these substats can be randomly generated, though depending if a card is at least 3 substats like this one, if you go ahead and enhance it up to at least a level of 5, it then will give you another substat. The same can be said for at least blue cards as well, seeing they only have at least 3 or 4 of these, you most likely can get another 4th stat here. though grays can only get at least 3 of these actual substats here, so you surely do keep that in mind. You just want to make sure you're doing everything correctly. Now when it does come down to everything else here, we got to talk about at least the substat scaling. Now substat scaling is a thing for every last one of these set effects, and I think the best way that I can pretty much show this to you guys is if I go ahead and pull up Pride Wind right here. So we're going to go ahead and pull up Pride Wind on the screen, in which you guys, I'll make sure the link is down below so you can actually see what's going on. But Pride Wind itself, if you go ahead and actually have it open, you'll be able to know and at least know exactly what you want to go ahead and do, seeing that they show all the substats that you do need, or all the substats in general, or at least this whole set effect. As you can see, in which the screen is a wee bit too big, so let me actually go ahead and do this here. As you can see, there are revelation card substat scaling, and this is fairly important for a lot of you guys. I thought it would be better to just go ahead and show it, seeing that this is where things can get confusing. Based on at least the amount of scaling here whenever you're upgrading the card will depend on the amount, of course, it stays at base. But seeing if it does get upgraded, it can go even higher than this, so surely do keep in mind. For example, if your crit rate is 1.3% at base, it has a chance of going even higher than that, which could very well pass 2%. Though it is the lowest on the scaling scale, so it wouldn't be as high as if you started with 2% and just ranked up even more. So you do want to make sure you got the right at least substat scaling at the end of the day, and that will be the most important thing if you think about it. Now when it comes down to the universal cards, they have the same thing, so surely do keep that in mind, and it will be the most important thing, especially when you're trying to really optimize these cards. At the end of the day, as I did say, you can do a bunch of things with these cards, and at least making sure Arcana cards themselves will be very, very helpful, but you do have to figure out exactly what character this does work for. Luckily, I have a bunch of build guides that I'll be informing you guys as much as possible on how the Arcana cards do work for this said character, and if I haven't made at least a guide on it, Pride Wind might have it, or if you really wanted to and you needed to find out immediately, the one thing that you possibly could do is go ahead and check the characters. Now, the characters themselves, the game kind of gives you a little bit of a set, which you very well can follow by pressing this little black button here, and it tells you exactly what's the best set that you could possibly be using. Now, I wouldn't say follow this like all the way through. Only reason why I say this is because it isn't all the time correct. For example, there is another set that Cord possibly could end up running, but it depends on the situation at hand. So if you're going to utilize this, just do know that sometimes it can be wrong, so be sure to double check. Now before we end off the video, there are a few other functions that I can explain as well that do pertain to at least the gear system. The gear system does have these two functions at the top. One of them uses an ink where you can actually customize the main stat immediately, and you can also do this no matter what with any of these cards that you have in hand. For example, there's one card that I do need for Akihiko, which causes me to go for this artifact set, and I do need it for crit damage. So seeing I have one of these inks, which are obtainable from the battle pass and other events, I would end up setting this to crit damage, pressing OK, and then immediately making the card. It's good for the point that you can actually make the card. The only bad part is you're at the mercy of substats. So when of course you ever do this, the substats are randomly generated. Much like of course if you get the cards out of the dungeon, they are going to be randomly generated as well, so sure you do keep that in mind. Now when it does come down to this other function here, if you decide to press it, it pretty much just sacrifices all your said cards to make a new one. Not all the cards are going to be immediately actually the newer card sets here, and it is quite a lot to make one card. In fact, you need 5 whole cards in general to make one. So if I wanted to make at least, I don't know, maybe one card set of at least this set effect for Joker, I would need to go ahead and sacrifice 5 of these cards that are also golden in order to make this one card. Now based on this, I mean, you can very well use it, though I don't always recommend it, seeing that it takes so many to actually make one card, and it's randomly on the main sub, at least the main actual stat being one of these main stats. Substats are also randomized, and then of course if it's going to be sun, moon, star, or planet is also randomized. So at the end of the day, it can be a little bit of a gamble, so you do have to keep that in mind. But on all that's everything I wanted to really explain about the Arcanas and everything when it comes down to the gear section. If you guys want to at least know what every last gear set does do, be sure to go to pridewind.com here, because this one is going to be the best place to go to for all your stuff. as I did say, I use this site a decent bit every now and again if I do want to go ahead and tell you guys something that's way more descriptive than normal here, so you surely want to keep this in mind. Just to go ahead and find a little bit of the Arcana cards here, you could go ahead and press this little one inside the guide section and check them out accordingly. It's going to be fairly helpful for a lot of you guys, especially if you don't have a lot of time to find out yourself. This can be very helpful, especially if I don't have a guide up myself. But all in all, I'll make sure to have this actual website inside of at least the Discord, as well as inside the description itself. So look forward to that. But then, peace out, you guys. Have a wonderful day.